Hello everyone, welcome back to another Course Creator Circle how-to session. I am absolutely stoked and excited to have Erin here from Wobo today. For those of you who don't know me, because yes, that happens from time to time, my name is Reed-Enever. I'm the founder of the Course Creator Circle, business, and I lead our impact team here at Enever Group, which brings you all the projects that we run right now. Now, today I am absolutely stoked and excited because I've been playing with this tool for so long. We have Erin here from Wobo. Erin is here to show us how we can make interactive and engaging workbooks. Erin's part of the Course Creator Studio, so she understands as much as what I do how, making sure that your students are engaged and empowered work. So Erin, I'd like to say hello and good morning and let you introduce yourself while I go and do all the social checks to make sure we're live in the right spots.
Perfect. Yeah, sounds good. And it is actually evening over here. I'm based in Canada. But yeah, thanks so much for having me. Yeah, Linda and I have been keeping in touch over the past few months when we first connected. And yeah, we've definitely been learning a lot from each other about workbooks and courses and things like that. So yeah.
And how to make it all fit together.
Yeah.
Which is a big journey. So I'm just checking everything is live and we seem to have everyone running. So just give me 1 second and I will do a quick share and then we'll get started in today's session. For those of you who don't know where we sit or where we teach you in course creation, both Erin and I have a philosophy that course creation should be engaging for our students. It should be easy for us to be able to create and implement, and it should be give us the opportunity to be able to track what we need to track and find when it comes to our businesses. Now, I love Wobo from the point of view of it has allowed me to be able to track what my students are up to. I've run live workshops, I've run replay workshops, I've run how-tos. We're even looking at, bringing it into our coaching processes and procedures in here. There are so many things that you can do with Wobo. And I have 2 course creation students who now do templated stuff, and we're looking at whether they can put their templates into Wobo workbooks and then get them submitted to them at the very, very end. So we are absolutely excited to show you the power of this technology. Erin, would you like to introduce, a little bit about where Wobo came from? Why do we want this? Why do we need workbooks interactive?
Absolutely. Here, let me share my screen here and
I will click us on and get us started.
Story a little bit. Okay. Does that look okay?
That looks fine. We can see your screen perfectly.
Perfect. Okay. I did a little introduction already, but I didn't get to at Course Studio. We're the company that makes Wobo. Before this, I was working in cybersecurity, so I'm definitely having more fun now. I love working with entrepreneurs. I have this little side fun to see people kind of nurture their and I love including accessibility into products on the web. I think it's so important. So we'll touch on that a little bit later about how we do that in Wobo too. I made a little agenda just so we can keep track of our timeline a bit. So we're going to get into what is Wobo and, like you said, how did we get here? Some benefits of interactivity that you can kind of aim for or expect to see. Some pain points that you may have already experienced, or if you're thinking about starting a course, to kind of be aware of and watch out for in choosing your tool. And then I'm going to share a few use cases of people using Wobo in really interesting ways to hopefully inspire you. And then we'll do a live demo.
Yay!
Any other questions at the end?
Fantastic. Now, guys, if you've got any questions along the way, please ask. Please put them into chat. Let us know. Both Erin and I are not afraid of a question at any stage in time. It will help us make sure that you are the most engaged throughout this process as well. I'm just going to duck off camera for a second while I do all the little technical checks behind the scenes, and I'll let Erin start with why did we make Wobo, and you'll see me back very, very shortly. But I'm going to leave you in Erin's capable hands for a few minutes, and I will come back and let her know any questions or anything that we get along in chat as we go along. Erin, I'm going to leave it with you for a bit.
Perfect. And please interrupt if I forget to breathe and take a break.
Yeah, I understand.
So yeah, how did we get here and why did we make this? So I mentioned earlier, but the company that I work with is called Course Studio. And we're an agency that designs and develops really awesome learning experiences on the web for our clients. And we had a lot of clients coming to us across different industries and across different course structures with this one really specific issue, which is I want my learners to be able to take notes and answer questions. And, maybe they're adults in the workplace, or maybe I'm, teaching a course to help them improve a specific thing in their personal life. So I don't need to quiz them. I don't need to test their knowledge, but I do want the option for them to take notes and set goals, and actually keep those things. So that was missing from a lot of the tools that we found. And then another thing that was really important that they were really struggling with is, they had established this brand and this visual identity as a company, and that's, part of their success up to this point. And being able to create those is not a trivial thing. It wasn't easy. It wasn't simple. They had to hire a designer. And if they had to update it, it was almost even harder to make an update to something that existed already. So with the agency business, we tried really hard to solve this problem, and we found that we just couldn't. It was a really specific intersection of all of these needs that course creators have, especially, being across devices, different delivery types, mobile, just making an awesome branded experience that's really for this specific purpose. So we created a few custom ones and then figured it was big enough of an issue to create a product that we could actually scale and offer to more people, and didn't have that custom price tag on it. So that's kind of how we got here. And so what did we land on? What did we actually make? So we made a product called Wobo. It's an interactive digital workbook. So you can use it totally on its own. It could be the way that you deliver your course. You can also use it within your course experience. So you can embed it in Thinkific or Kajabi or Teachable, whatever LMS system you use. And it enables creators to build and also easily update engaging online workbooks that are beautifully designed and on brand. And then from the student perspective or the learner perspective, they get to actually keep their work along with all of your takeaways and lessons and their notes and their goals from the course experience.
And look, guys, I know as a branding and a marketing expert, that's the number one feature that I looked for in all my workbooks. And it was why I didn't go with any of the interactive platforms before I met Erin, because I couldn't brand it. I could not get it the way that I wanted it to look. And I teach marketing and branding. If I put a workbook out there that's not on brand, what am I telling my people? It was one of those biggest components going through the opportunities. And as Erin said, this isn't a Thinkific specific app. This is an app that you can use both, on through running live workshops and live training, which I've done. I've used it inside the classroom. I've also used it inside virtual classrooms as well. And I've used it other ways. But yeah, Erin's right. When we quiz someone, there's almost that fear of getting the wrong answer. When we provide them a workbook with multiple choice, with empowerment and things that go along the way, we also encourage our students to continue the learning journey and to continue learning on. And, hey, for lots of us who are adults learners, we came with a workbook. Everything we have learned has come with a workbook. And this is where Wobo gives us the opportunity to do all of those sorts of features. So I just thought I'd pop onto that one while we were there about why it stuck out of all the tools we see as an interactive workbook that we use in-house.
Nice. That's great to hear. Okay, so why would you even want to use a tool like this? Or kind of what were our agency clients coming to us wanting to get out of a tool like this? So first of all, improving student outcomes. So like you mentioned, that it's not an assessment. It's like promoting reflection, promoting interpretation of your content. So in looking into kind of different ways to incorporate this, I came across a study that showed that students or learners who complete an activity after reading something online or watching a video online remember 145% more of it. So even if you're not going for like, hey, remember this fact, like classic school learning, you are creating a more memorable experience and actually, having those lessons that you were teaching sink in a little bit better, even if it's not a quiz. It could be, assessing the comprehension, yes, but make an inference, apply this to your workplace or your life or, your relationship with your child, like all of those ways that you can incorporate that into your real life. So the key here is asking open-ended questions. It's not a quiz. You're kind of reconstructing that knowledge that you just introduced, but in that learner's actual life or workplace or, whatever realm you're teaching in. Secondly is reducing distraction. So this is huge, preventing your students from dropping off or, introducing reasons for them not to come back. So with Wobo, when you embed using one of our integrations, like the Thinkific integrations, there's no branding. They don't need to sign up for anything. They don't need to sign in for anything. They don't need to leave the course player, which is really important. And then also we were talking about branding, like there's no distractions from your brand. It's not like, now make your own, it's free. There's none of that. So it's white labeled. It's a really seamless experience. And you're able to really have a lot of control over the student experience and what's visible to them.
I think from the interactivity point of view, you're able to give your students the choice of where they want to learn. So in the workbooks that we've created with Erin so far, and Erin's helped us with that, and it's one of the bonuses that you get when you start Wobo. They do help you understand the tech and how to put this all together, guys. One of the things that we did was we created the workbook standalone for those who want it standalone. But then under each video lesson, we've used the text embed option with Thinkific to be able to embed the workbook that they need to. So they watch the video, they go and they fill in the bits, but it's still all in that one workbook that they get to download at the end. And my students who've been using it so far, that's what they're loving, is they know the workbook's there, but rather than having to go back to it, they're able to do the bits that relate to the video or the module as they get to it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, you don't have to flip to the page or like scroll to the document in another window. Yeah.
And hey, student feedback when all of this is what wins.
Yeah. Awesome. Yeah. On that note, so we've seen our course creators have improved course completion rates when they add Wobo. So I think a lot of that is due to making it really easy to pick back up where you left off. So again, you're not trying to find a file from your desktop. If it looks anything like mine, it's terrifying. There's just files everywhere. So yeah, it's easy to pick back up and you can see your progress. You can keep your progress. It's not like you submitted it in like a survey or an assignment that you're like, did I do that? Is it, what did I say in that response? Yeah. So it just makes it a more seamless, more engaging. The next point, which you touched on a little bit at the beginning, is visibility. So this is really important. Like your course is a business really at the end of the day, and having insight into your customers, I mean, they are your learners, but how they're going through their course, if you're seeing them drop off at a certain point, are they understanding the questions that you're giving them? Are they answering them at all? Or are they answering incorrectly? Or how are they answering? Are there unexpected things? So even if you're not running like a really involved cohort-based course where you're actually, coaching and giving feedback, there's a lot of value in being able to see, what the responses are, if people are even doing them. Is it working? Do I need to tweak anything?
I can completely iterate that one. That one's a big one for us. What we've seen is also where our students drop off in the workbook. So maybe do we need to explain something more? I know that's been really valuable, especially when we've done lots of live training first when we've been using Wobo, because, hey, I test everything live because I like to see where people get stuck. But even in the replay, what we're finding is it's matching where we're getting stuck in the workshop. It wasn't just a case of here we've been delivering the workshop for a while. So we can then refine the learning materials to make sure that we actually provide that little bit more help. And do we need to put a video in? Do we need to put a tutorial in to help them get through that roadblock or learning block? And that, helps completion rates, which we want. But please, everyone, I keep saying this, don't get hung up on completion rates, because some people will come and they will learn the thing that they needed to know from the course in the very first lesson. Some need to go all the way through and go through multiple times before they get the thing that they needed to learn. So completion rates are amazing, and we want to have completion rates. If everyone gets stuck at the one point, then we worry. But if it's only a couple of students, make sure that we're qualifying the data where our people get stuck, because I think that's really important. I know, Erin, you back me up on that. Sometimes we get stuck because only one person said this. One person's feedback is one person's feedback. If it's happening from multiple students or having multiple students get stuck, then let's look at it then.
Nice. I love that. Okay, last point that I wanted to touch on here is just that ability to promote reflection and that moment of like pause. Okay, what did I just learn? What does that mean for me? How do I incorporate that in my life? How do I set a goal related to that? That's a lot of the kind of content or context that our course creators are in, is they're creating this private space for their learners to pause, reflect, think about it, apply it, reconstruct that learning. And kind of extend that lesson beyond just, the experience of watching the video, and apply it to their life and let them walk away with it eventually at the end.
I completely agree. And that's another one, reflection is important. Reflection, I'm a trained primary school teacher. I think I've said this to Erin before, but reflection and cementing of what you've learned. And the best way you can do that is to write about it or verbalize it or get it out. And writing, obviously, physical writing or digital writing will cement knowledge 80% more than just listen to knowledge. And plus it engages the learning styles, which we need to do as course creators.
Mm-hmm. Nice. So I know you know about some of these, but I just wanted to introduce a few. This is kind of our journey of how we got here, like all of the different things that we tested are like, okay, maybe we could do this and connect it with a Zap and then it would make a copy. Oh, but then this. So I'm just going to quickly touch on like all of the other reasons why we were like, this truly doesn't exist. We have to make it. So fillable PDFs, and really all of these, there's absolutely a time and a place. Like I love a survey and there's a time and a place for a survey. And if that fits your need, that's great. But there were a number of things that we tried that didn't quite fit this specific kind of workbook journal kind of concept. So the fillable PDFs, the biggest one really is not having visibility into what your learners are doing. It is distracting as well, having to reopen that file. And then, at the end of the course, you have like 10 different PDFs that you have to, if your learners know how to collate those, that's cool. I don't even think I know how to do that. But,
exactly.
in like one nice experience and nicely branded too. So that's another thing. That's the reason why people hire an agency like us is like, I don't know how to design a nice looking PDF. And even if I did, like you have to call us again to update it because we have to, fix a typo or your curriculum changed or something. And then you have to start the process all over again of designing it, make it fillable. So this one's tough. This one hurts.
That one does.
This is probably the best solution that we came to. So a Thinkific learner signed up. We had a Zap that created a copy of a Google Doc, and then it made them a version, which is cool and it works. And from the student's perspective, they're like, here's my document. But again, if you find a typo, now all of your students have an individual document, so you have to go in and edit each one. And if they don't like a question, they can just delete it, which isn't.
Oh, they do.
And they will, yeah. It is also really easy for a student once they have all of this in their own private Google Doc. It's easy for them to duplicate your intellectual property. So that was something that came up as well as, how do we allow a little bit more control over how much you can share and how much your students can retain?
Yes.
And again, I love a survey tool in the right context, but we looked at this as well, but instantly your answers disappear as a learner. And that's really not what our course creators were looking for. And you are kind of locked into their branding or their style. So all of this led us to a few key points that we knew we had to hit from the instructor experience. So first of all, easy to build, easy to update. I should have the word design in there too, because that was a big thing, is like, how do we remove ourselves from having to design every single workbook in a custom way? So making the experience really easy. How do we help course creators protect their IP? That came up a lot in conversations, is like, I want this takeaway, but how do I make it, not just so they can forward it to all of their friends and this thing that I've put my blood, sweat, and tears into. So that was another important thing that we had to consider. Visibility, we've talked about a bunch already. So visibility into student progress and also their responses. And then finally, tools for team collaboration. So a lot of course creators aren't working alone. They have coaches that support and they need to actually see the student responses, or they just need, other people going and building courses with them.
So Erin, IP is one I come across a lot with students, and I've just got a question inside the Course Creators Circle group, which which is not coming up in public chat here. But the IP, so I know how Wobo, and I know we're going to get into the demonstration later, which will help everyone understand how Wobo actually protects your IP. But bringing back even to the points about, as you said, with the Google Doc, people can copy it. They can, even if you've got a view only, they can make a copy and add it to their folders. And I know it's a concern for many, many course creators when we come through that process. The one thing I will say about Wobo is it is very easily for students to continue along, but because they are almost going in that digital experience, they're less likely to copy. They're less likely to go through that IP opportunity. But the collaboration point is the other one. Love that one. And the student progress, as you know, that both of those things are giving me really good opportunities. But, but say, for example, we ran like we're running the Skill Summit, if we ran a workbook for the Skill Summit, which we were looking at doing, but we just ran out of time. If we ran a workbook for the Skill Summit, it would mean that all of our presenters could see where people are at and what sessions work for them and all of those workbooks. So maybe next year. We've taken a lot in the Skill Summit this year, but it's a really key thing for people to understand going through that being able to protect your IP is great and it's a massive concern, but also being able to see where the roadblocks hit is huge. So I suppose the question that we've been asked, which I've got a long way around of saying it, is how does Wobo protect our IP any different from a Google Doc? How are we stopping people copying stuff?
Yeah, a little bit different. So there's a few things. First of all, when you're building the workbook, you can decide exactly what and when and if at all you allow students or learners to download the content. So you could just present content and not allow it to be downloaded if you wanted, if there's, a key diagram or, framework that you work through, but you don't necessarily want them to be able to share. So you can actually, and especially if you're embedding it, you can decide no download links, actually in either version. So yeah, whether or not you allow the content to be downloaded at all. In the digital version, you can also enable, we call it disable text copying. So you can't highlight or copy or right click any images or text. So those ones work nicely together. If you're deciding not to let a certain part of the workbook be kept, you can also disable text copying. So they can't highlight it, they can't copy and paste. So really it's about deterring people from easily being able to copy. Like anything you put out on the internet could potentially last
will be
forever.
copied 90% of the time.
Yeah, if someone really wants to, like it is really hard to stop them. So as much as you can discourage that is kind of the approach that we take. So
absolutely. And I think that, guys, it's a really important thing to note is if we worry about everyone copying our stuff, because Erin, you and I have both been there, if we worry about everyone copying our stuff and we focus on that, we're not producing the next piece of content. And whoever copies whatever you put out there has to play catch up anyway.
Yeah, exactly. So yeah, disable text copying, whether or not you allow it to be downloaded. If you really want to lock it down, you totally can. Custom watermarks. So if you have like a legal disclaimer, you can put a custom watermark on every single page of your workbook. And you can also choose to add each individual student's name and email on the workbook. So we find that adding, their contact information also really discourages sharing, and they would have to edit each individual page of the download to remove their contact information. So again, really a deterrent.
I must admit, that's my favorite feature. It's called the guilt feature. I'm guilting you into treating this information the right way around. I'm putting your name and email address on it.
Yeah. Yeah. Don't forget, I made this for you.
That's really what it is, isn't it? Don't forget, I made this for you.
Yeah. So yeah, those are the big hits from the instructor experience. So in general, making, building, and updating the workbook easier was a huge one. From the student or learner experience, collecting the work into one final artifact is huge. So this is something that we started off with. This was one of our top 5 non-negotiables for the product, is especially if you're using it within an online course, like you have a video, you have a voice note, and then you have the workbook. We wanted you to be able to complete the workbook kind of interspersed throughout the course, and then at the end, download the whole thing. And we knew it was important, and we've had awesome feedback about this feature. Like you just can't do that elsewhere. So you can have, exercises below videos or in their own lessons, and then let them be kept as one nicely formatted, document that the students can refer back to at the end of the course. It's also important to be accessible for visually impaired students and also optimized across devices. So the nice thing is, especially compared to something like a PDF that isn't really commonly used on a phone, when you're building an exercise or a workbook in Wobo, you don't have to think about whether or not it's going to work on a phone or whether it's, accessible by just a keyboard, or if a screen reader is going to pick it up. It just does. It just works. So that was also important, is like just take that element of it away for the people who are building workbooks and just do it for them. And then finally, having a seamless course experience from a student perspective, not having to sign up for anything, not seeing other branding that's distracting, just having like an awesome time taking this course. So I want to jump into a few case studies, because, we say workbook, and even I admit at the beginning when I was thinking about this concept, before we had actual people working in it, I thought of it all as the same way, because that's how I learned, is, traditional classroom learning, where you learn something and then you complete an exercise or you answer a question. But that is not what everyone is doing. And so I wanted to share that just to kind of give you some inspiration of the different ways that it could be used. So one of the organizations that we're really, really proud is using Wobo is the Obama Foundation, and more specifically the MBK Alliance, which is an organization that supports young men of color excel in all areas of life. And so this workbook is more about setting goals, about reflecting on concepts that they've learned, and about applying these learning into their life. So that's a really awesome one. So it's not so much testing your knowledge or complete this assignment. It's what are your goals for the future? How can you introduce this concept, or things like that. So yeah, that's a really awesome use case that we're really proud to be used for. Another one that's really interesting and also kind of unexpected. So the World Relief Foundation is a global humanitarian organization, and they use the workbook for culture training and team onboarding. So actually internally with their team, they do humanitarian work like crisis relief, for example, in a specific part of the world. And the culture training helps their team get on board with the situation, and kind of what to expect and how to help. Totally switching gears here, a totally different course creator. So Kat Norton, you might know her as Miss Excel if you're on TikTok. So she's a really large scale content creator. She teaches like specifically Excel, but also other Microsoft suite tips. She's actually great. If you're on TikTok, you should follow her, because you learn so much, and it's just like such a short thing. You're like, oh, I didn't know you could do that. So what she uses Wobo for is to kind of like round up and reinforce all of the information presented in the video, because it's formulas, like you're not going to memorize it. And so she doesn't actually let you input anything in the workbook, but she does use the opportunity to create a beautifully branded thing that you can like save, download, print. So I'm actually going to open it here and we can have a little sneak peek.
Beautiful. I'm just grabbing Kat's TikTok link for everyone to follow at the same time.
Oh, perfect. Thank you.
Very vital sharing we have here today.
So yeah, she has this beautiful cover page, and then this is using the table section in Wobo, so we'll have a look at that. But yeah, just print this page, must have shortcuts, and then she has other ones, like financial, accounting formulas, things like that. So this is the kind of thing that you would actually like print out or save to your desktop. And then we'll have a look at this as well, but we talked about choosing when and where you can download. So she's got a download on each one, so you can just save the one that's applicable to you. Excuse me.
And that's really handy, because actually that answers the question that I had. I've got we're putting into a workbook right now, and I've got a media terms explained list, which is about 2 pages long. But yes, that's going now back into my workbook. I was going to make it its own PDF.
Nice. Yeah. And then the next thing
I love to run these sessions beforehand.
Yeah. Yeah, you can mix, if you do have input as well, you can kind of mix reference, input, kind of thing.
Absolutely.
Another workbook that I love, this is more kind of the traditional use case that I would expect. So Good Inside for the parents that are attending. Time Magazine called her Dr. Becky the Millennial Parenting Whisperer. She's awesome. I don't have kids, but I still read her newsletter, because I'm like, oh yeah, that's true. Like she just has lots of really good tips that actually aren't even just about parenting. But her workbook is awesome. So, you watch a video and you learn about a concept, and then it's like, I'll just show you actually.
Yeah, let's look.
I lost my cursor. Oh, here we go.
Gotcha.
And I just love her branding as well. Like the little illustrations are just so fun. So she uses lots of cover pages and like really nicely spends time on the design. So yeah, she's got key ideas. She's got these call outs. She's using a lot of interactivity. So yeah, when I'm overwhelmed, I can do this. Mm-hmm. This is what I tell myself, set a goal, really keeping it interesting, even though it's all just text. But yeah, interspersing that like knowledge, but then also goal setting and, understanding your lesson that you just watched. And I love these little photos that she has. They're so cute.
Well, we are engaging many old learning styles in there. We've got visual, we've got kinesthetic, we've got reading, we've got...
Yeah, yeah. She knows what she's doing, that's for sure.
Awesome.
I think this is our last one. So Daily Ohm, you might have heard of. They're also a pretty large scale content creator. So they do these micro courses that are focused on self-improvement. So like physical health, mental health, that kind of thing. And they do a lot of goal setting and reflection and introducing a concept, and then kind of similar to the Good Inside use case, like how does this apply to you? What can you do? That kind of thing. And they actually are heavily text-based. So it's a really interesting use of the workbook. Some of their courses are actually entirely in Wobo, so they don't have a video component. It's like a read and journal kind of concept. So, okay, that's enough talking. Let's have a look at Wobo. So I think I want this tab here. So jumping into the live demo portion. So I'll start with the instructor perspective, and then I'll show you the student perspective, because we can kind of build it and then see how it looks as a student. I find that works well to see the journey. Yeah.
Let's build
this
it.
is your dashboard. If you can teach all of these things, that's really impressive. But when you build a workbook, you can start from a template, and we have some really fun branded ones, and then we have kind of some more subtle ones if you just want to really jump into it and get started. You can also totally start from scratch as well. I'm going to start in just one that I have made already. So the way that we structure the workbook is we call these modules, and then within modules you have sections. So if you are going to embed this in your online course, you can group sections together into modules, and then that's what you can show all together. So you can put a group of sections together like this, and then embed just those ones at one time, and then have a video or whatever content, and then show the next section. So you can break it up nicely and make it kind of relevant always to the video and a bit more bite-sized. Create those kind of natural breaks for students to pause and reflect and take a breather.
Engage. Yep.
And this is really exciting. You might not have even seen this because we released it earlier today, but we just updated this add section modal. I don't know if you've seen this, but
no, I haven't got there yet.
we're excited. So it was just a list before, which was great. But now, as we add more and more sections, you can kind of preview it before you actually add it to your workbook.
Oh, nice.
So we're excited about this. So it
I'm
also
excited
helps,
about that.
it also helps me demo because I don't have to add them all to show you. So we've grouped them into a few categories like responses or choices or informative or strictly design or download. So I'll go through them quickly and show you just to give you kind of a sense of the types of exercises that you can put in Wobo. Yeah. So question and answer, we saw a few of those in the Good Inside workbook. So kind of self-explanatory. The table one is a bit more exciting. So I'm going to add one and show you. But this is something that we've had really good feedback on, that people have never really seen something like this, because you're creating just the prompts and then allowing the student input. So something that came up a lot in the Google Docs is like, delete the table, add a column. Like you can't do that. You can set the format that the table is going to be answered in, which is a nice feature.
We've used that quite a bit in the table feature when we do content swaps, and we get them to look at what they've got, and the student feedback is, oh great, I can type in straight away rather than having to print it out and write in later. So that's been amazing in live training. Yeah,
nice. Fill in the blanks, also kind of self-explanatory, like a short answer, or you can make a phrase and have people fill it out. Notes area, just strictly notes if you have a diagram or below a video or something like that. And then these choices ones, if you're just trying to get, a quick check-in and you want students to be able to choose from, preset options. So you have a few of those: radio buttons, check boxes, drop-down lists. The slider is our newest section. So a bit more, get to change it up and make it a bit more interactive. The informative section, you've got images, just text, or a link to an external reference. A lot of LMS systems have the video as a separate URL, so that could be really nice if you want to say, this relates back to this video, or download this resource or read this case study kind of thing. The module cover page, we saw a few of those in the sample workbooks. And then these two download links. So I touched on this briefly, but there's two different ways that you can allow the download: either just the module, so like those reference sheets from Miss Excel, or the entire workbook. Or if you don't put them at all, then you don't give the opportunity to download the workbook, and it's just, you could use it to just have a nicely designed text lesson with, a background and images and things like that you might not be able to do necessarily in your LMS system.
And guys, I think it's really important to note, because this is one thing that stumped me for about 20 minutes, was that you do need to add the download link to make your workbook.
Need to add the links. It is a benefit, but it does.
Once I added the link, it was perfectly fine.
I'm going to jump into the table feature just quickly and then show you a bit of the editing experience. If we have anyone that's using Shopify on the stream, this was a big area of inspiration for us. They do an awesome job of having like the editing panel and the instant preview. So we have some respect for Shopify on this team. They're also Canadian, which is always fun when it's from your country. So most fields have like a title and a description, and you can choose whether or not you use those fields. So it's pretty easy to, populate them or change the formatting and things like that. And then with the tables, you can choose your layout. So it's a few different kind of preset ones. And then you can also change, obviously, columns and rows and edit from there. And then in this editor here, you're just choosing the prompts that go in each field. So if I switch between the tables, you can see that the type of prompts change. You can also just present information. So if you have like a recipe or a table of definitions or something like that, you can present it in a way it's not just a paragraph. So that's kind of fun. And then, I'll just pop into maybe just another section type just to show you another example. So again, you have your question and your description. So this is the fill in the blanks. And then throughout the product, we have most things are like drag and drop or just like a quick X to clear. So you can kind of alternate your prompts and your input fields. So it is pretty easy to build something that looks, like a professional product. So you're almost like building an app actually in this view, which is kind of fun.
Very cool. Yeah, actually.
And then in terms of designing, we talked earlier a lot about, making things easy to design, simple. So for this one, we got a lot of inspiration from Google Sheets, how, you pick your main color and it just populates for you and it just makes it really easy. You don't have to go in every time and customize, like, oh, this button, I forgot to change it. So you choose title, title, subtitle, and body. You can have different fonts, and we have a bunch of nice fonts for you to choose from. You choose your color and it just populates throughout for you. So you don't have to worry about, missing, something's the wrong text, color or size, alignment, things like that. And same thing with the button styling, link styling, and tables. So they just update throughout, and it's really easy to just change the color. So you can either put, if you have set branding colors, just pop them in, and you can switch your color type, or yeesh. And it just, updates for you.
Perfect. That is so cool.
So the builder's really fun. I really like making sample workbooks because it's just easy and interactive, and
so let's have a look. Always link back to your video and your workbook. I know, Erin, that was one of the first things I said to you. Can we link back to their video? Can we link back to whatever we're teaching, whether it's a download, a piece to read, wherever it is, linking back to that. And I love the fill in the blank is amazing from the point of view of where we're talking about reflection. But I was even just looking at the slide of that, Erin. Can you imagine pre-workbook? So this is me, and Sarah, I go into this ideas mode all the time. Pre-workbook, you gauge where your people are on the slider, and then you get at the end of the workbook, I would get this same engagement. So now say for example, I'm going to put the press release one that we're doing because it's just top of my head. So how comfortable are you writing a press release? Slide at 1 to 10. Have you done it before? No, yes or no. And just going through that process, engaging where your students feel at the start of the journey, and then at the same at the end of the journey. It cements their learning on where their progress is so far, and it also gives you silent feedback on how well the information is getting through. Do they feel empowered and do they feel confident? So sometimes some of the student measuring we do doesn't have to be a great, hey, fill out this survey, tell me whether you loved me or you hated me type course situation. It can be silent feedback like that by starting with the little measures about, okay, before we get started, how confident do you feel? And then by the end of it, how confident do you feel? And those little measures are going to work really, really well. And yes, I'll be adding sliders to my workbook later on today.
Yeah, it's such good feedback to have as the person offering the course.
Absolutely. And it can be silent like that. It can be inside your workbooks. It doesn't have to be a please review my course or please fill in this 20-minute type form, which people don't do.
Okay, so before I show you the student experience, I'm actually going to show you, we were talking about protecting your IP, so I'm going to quickly show you those features. So we talked about whether or not you can download it and when that appears. I think that's clear.
Yep.
I'm going to pop over to settings and show you the rest of them. So you have this workbook settings area. So you can have the student name and email and the watermark, decide whether or not that's included. And then you can have custom watermark text, and just showing you that you can put whatever you want in there.
I love that message.
And then this is the disable text copying option. So I can show you, it's not very exciting to demo because nothing happens, but I can show you what it looks like.
Now guys, if you put a copyright in your custom watermark, please remind yourselves in your project manager ClickUp board or calendar at the start of the new calendar year to come and update your copyrights.
Yep. Okay, I'm going to switch over to my student dashboard. So this is what it looks like to be a student in the standalone version. And then I'll show you embedded in a course like Thinkific with the integration all set up and everything.
Perfect.
So this is actually a course that Thinkific offers for free. They have this awesome free resource section. So they actually offer it as a part of like a video course. But like you said, Linda, you can offer as well, like the standalone workbook or have it in course. So this is kind of both. So yeah, they've got, it's actually really similar to the preview that I was in, which is nice because as you're building the workbook, you can actually see what it's going to look like. So yeah, this is as if I was a student taking the course. So they like to offer the ability to download it blank at the beginning, which we support. So if you download it blank, you see these empty areas and, you know, the fill in the blanks are lines. You could actually write in it with a pen, which is always kind of funny because you're building it in, you know, a digital version. But we have one course that teaches vet techs skills, and so that makes sense once they explain that. You download it and then you
like digital workbooks. I understand.
Yeah.
They're going to want the print version.
Yeah. And then as you go, your responses are saved and your students can see that. So they don't need to save. They can just close the tab and not have to worry about that. So that's kind of a nice thing too. If you have it on the go on their phone or whatever, they don't have to be, you know, always saving as they go. But yeah, so here's just an example of a real workbook from the student perspective in the standalone version. And then let's go back and I'll show you what it's like to embed into your course. So I'm going to use this workbook again. Actually, yeah, we'll stay on topic. These share options. So you can either click embed up here or on the individual module. They'll take you to the same place. Don't forget to publish your changes. So you can make edits and then publish them live later. So there's that kind of versioning that you can do. So your students can't see you edit in real time. And then when you embed, you can choose either the entire workbook from start to finish. So that's really nice either at the beginning or the very end. So Thinkific does that in their course. They have the whole thing and they say you can print it if you want, or you can have it just at the very end. Either way, it'll have all of the responses in it, which is nice. Or you can do just an individual module and you can choose the module that you want to embed. So I'll show you both. So all you do is copy this module URL, and then I'm using Thinkific, but in our support documentation, there's guides for Kajabi, Teachable, Matrix, a bunch of the other LMS tools. And this is a multimedia lesson. So if you haven't used one of those before in Thinkific, it is this one. Actually, I'll just add a new one. And all you do is just put the link in. So the link that I just copied from Wobo, just put in here and save. And I'm going to preview the current lesson. And what I'm about to see is exactly what a new student would see. So they don't need to create an account or log in. So what we do with the Thinkific app installed is use single sign-on to just make their account in Wobo, since it's an app for Thinkific.
I was just about to say that. I was going to say, cool thing with Thinkific is single sign-on, so that's awesome. I'm glad
Yeah,
we were
the
thinking the same
Thinkific App
spot.
Store has been awesome. Yeah, so I have used this workbook before, so my responses are saved in there from last time. But yeah, so that's the same experience that your students would have. So it is really seamless, and you do get a bit more of that design customization than you do in like just a text lesson or a quiz or something. So we've had a lot of good feedback about that.
And one of
So
the other ways that we're embedding modules is using the video lesson above and then putting the embed code from the lesson in the text box. So
yes, I think I have one of those, and I have kind of a hacky workaround. I will show you where to find the video.
On workbook one.
Yeah, I think it's in this one.
Yeah, so videos there.
And then workbook below. So that's been nice. And you can actually put this anywhere in your Thinkific site that has a text area. So you can actually put it like on a page you could do like, view visible for only enrolled students, and you could actually have it on your Thinkific site if you wanted, which is kind of a cool use case that I've seen before. So yeah, if you want the full width version, go to our support docs and watch this video, because you put a bit of code in your site. So yeah, watch this series, Embedding in Thinkific. And just generally, sorry, I got there kind of quickly, but from Wobo support, then it'll take you to our support center that has like the video ones and then all the written version down below. If you do need any help, or just hit the contact us button and I will email you back.
Beautiful. So Erin, can we just go back to the Wobo lesson to show guys where they'll find the code if they want to embed it in the video lesson rather than a multimedia link?
Yes. Yeah. So it's a little bit of a workaround for now. So definitely watch the video, but basically what you're doing is back into this copy embed URL. So that's what we clicked earlier to get the Thinkific link. And you're going to create an iframe. So if you know how to code, then by all means, create your own iframe. But the hacky workaround is that any of the other LMSs use iframes. So steal this code and then replace the URL with your Thinkific link. It sounds complicated, but the video explains it. And then below the video, I actually give you the code that you need for the iframe. So actually, you don't have to do what I just showed you. Come to the video, watch the video, steal the code below. But
do you want to pop the video in chat so that we've got it in the resources from today? If you grab me that link. And we'll pop it in with our resource links from there, because it is a really handy way of doing things, guys. Just in our little chat box. On the side, got captions, graphics, hit chat. There we go. I've got it from Erin. I'll pop it in for everyone else. There we go. Beautiful. All good. It's what happens when we use different presenting platforms. Yeah. But it's a really handy way of doing it. And I know that my students like being able to watch, interact.
Yeah. Okay, the last thing I was going to show you before we jump into questions, I'll just share my screen again, was that student view that we've been talking about. Yeah. So sorry, find mine. So on each workbook, you have your student list. So if I hit view students here or from the dashboard, and mine's not very exciting because this is just my count, but you can use your imagination to see what it would look like. Progress bar of the number of modules that they've worked. Talking about that analytics piece, or actually being able to see student responses, you can either view the workbook or download it. So if I go into the one that I've been using, I'll go in, and again, this view will be similar. So you're kind of seeing it as if it was the student working with it, but you can see all of their responses here.
That's awesome. Perfect. Okie dokie. I wonder how many of our people joining us today are going to be having a play with Wobo workbooks. I know I went for a good 20-30 minutes away playing on this one, making sure that we worked out how we wanted it to go. If anyone's got any questions, please ask us along the way. Both Erin and I are here, and we'll happily take questions in replay too and share it with you. Erin, thank you for joining us today.
Thank you so much for having me. It's been fun.
awesome to have you here. Guys, from our point of view, or just a quick couple of housekeeping things, we have the Small Business Skills Summit, which is massive and huge, running on our Thinkific school, surprisingly enough. 30-day experts over 30 days, helping you being able to build your business, things from business legals, business accounting, mindset, virtual presentations, tips, all of these things that relate to both business owners and course creators. So that's business is running that one. Next month, that's the next process. That's the next big one. And for those of you who have not seen me around for a while, because I did take a little bit of quiet time, we have our next week on the Tuesday. I'm coming into business for a skills webinar, and we are delivering how to monetize your knowledge. So really nice little link in from today, obviously creating your workbooks and doing all of those sorts of things. We're going to look at different exercises and different ways that you can monetize your knowledge to work with people through courses, through ebooks, through all sorts of opportunities for you to be able to share your knowledge and expertise and monetize the things you know, because we've all learnt stuff within our journey, within our business journey, that allows us to be able to share our knowledge, share our expertise with everyone. And yes, while we can do a certain amount of free, and education marketing is a great thing, the Monetize Your Knowledge workshop is here. So I've included the links for both of those. If you have been thinking of trying Wobo, I strongly suggest you do. I strongly suggest you go in and have a look and a play, see how it's going to work. Erin just mentioned embedding something in a page in Thinkific before. I'm sitting there going, oh, I wonder if we could embed it as the lead-in for our terms of service agreement for potential students. I can see you embedding it for contact forms. I can see so many things we can embed this for, and it would work really, really well. But even, you know, agreements to terms, or for those of you who have got disclaimers where you need people who come into courses and they need to understand, we need a disclaimer that says, you know, this information is general, it's provided as advice. I can see Wobo being a very good functionality and feature inside that space for you to be able to get those boxes ticked, have the prerequisite lesson set in Thinkific. But Erin was telling me today, Wobo is also going to have that set as prerequisite so that they can't continue without agreeing to those disclaimers. And that's some amazing features that are being brought to you by course creators who understand this journey as equally as what we do right now. So I need to thank Erin. I need to thank the Course Creators Studio team for building something that was a problem for all of us. And happily taking on suggestions from creators like myself going, can we do this along the way? And thank you for coming in and joining us today.
Thank you so much. Yeah, it's been really fun.
Beautiful. Okay, guys, until next time, have a great week. We'd love to see you in the Skills Summit. We'd love to see you in more sessions. If you have questions, ask them on the channels where you're watching here or via the Course Creators Circle website, and Erin and I will get back to you. Erin, I look forward to bringing you back next year when we run some deep dive training, maybe on building workbooks and all of those sorts of things in our course creation kickstarts, and having you come in and work with our Course Creators Circle members even further. Thanks. I'll see everyone next time.